Chapter 1. Introduction. In the history of the Crusades, Baldwin IV stands out as a truly unique figure. He became king at the age of 13 and from childhood suffered from leprosy, a disease that marked him for a short and painful life. This video is not meant to glorify him or sell a tragic story. Instead, we focus on how he governed a fragile kingdom on the brink of crisis, even as his body deteriorated. How he managed internal factions, and how he dealt with the growing threat of Saladin, the military genius unifying the Muslim world. This is not just a story of personal struggle, it's a window into the final decades of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Let's begin at the start. Chapter 2. The Crusades and the Founding of Jerusalem. At the end of the 11th century, Europe was plagued by feudal conflicts, land shortages, and religious anxiety. In 1095, Pope Urban II called for a holy war to liberate Jerusalem from Muslim rule, the First Crusade. In 1199, the Crusaders captured Jerusalem and established the Kingdom of Jerusalem, along with several surrounding states. These were Western Christian states, but geographically isolated and socially unstable. To defend these new kingdoms, military orders such as the Templars, Hospitallers, and Teutonic Knights were founded. They became the primary fighting force, as the Crusader states were always under threat. From the very beginning, the Kingdom of Jerusalem stood on uncertain ground, and into this unstable world, Baldwin IV was born. Chapter 3. Baldwin's family and early years. Baldwin IV was born in 1161, the son of King Amalric I and Agnes of Courtenay. He was tutored by the renowned chronicler William of Tyre, who one day noticed that Baldwin felt no pain during a game with his peers, an early sign of leprosy. In medieval times, leprosy was more than a disease. It was a social curse, often seen as divine punishment. But as a prince, Baldwin was protected. He received a full education, and despite his illness, he showed sharp intelligence and leadership potential. But his fate had already shifted course. Chapter 4. Accession and Political Climate. In 1174, King Amalric died. At only 13 years old, Baldwin was crowned king. Because he was underage, a regency council ruled in his name, dominated by rival factions led by Count Raymond III and Queen Mother Agnes. Meanwhile, Saladin was rising in the Muslim world, uniting Egypt and Syria under a single banner. He posed an unprecedented threat to the fragile Crusader kingdom. As Baldwin matured, he began to govern personally. He learned the political ropes quickly and began to show a calm authority that defied his age. Chapter 5. Saladin and the unification of the Muslim world. Saladin was more than a general. He was a skilled politician and religious figure. He united Sunni powers under the banner of jihad and expanded his empire through conquest and diplomacy. By the late 1170s, he had consolidated much of the Middle East. He was not just a military threat. He represented a sweeping religious and political force. Baldwin understood this. He realized Saladin wasn't just an enemy general. He was the symbol of a rising world order. Chapter 6. Baldwin's military leadership. In 1177, Saladin launched a major invasion of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Baldwin, though suffering from the effects of leprosy, personally led his forces to confront him. At the Battle of Montgisar, Baldwin's smaller army, with crucial help from the Templars, managed to rout Saladin's vastly superior forces. It was a stunning victory. Baldwin's reputation soared, yet even as his fame grew, his physical condition worsened rapidly. Chapter 7. Political intrigue and the succession crisis. Baldwin never married, and his illness made it unlikely he could produce an heir. This made succession a constant source of anxiety. His sister Sibylla was next in line, but her husband, Guy of Lusignan, was widely distrusted and seen as incompetent. Baldwin briefly made Guy co-king, then revoked the title and appointed his young nephew, Baldwin V, as heir. These frequent shifts caused political division and weakened royal authority. Despite his worsening condition, Baldwin tried to keep the political system intact, but it was slipping out of his hands. Chapter 8. Baldwin's final years. By the early 1880s, Baldwin was nearly blind and paralyzed. He could no longer walk or hold court, but continued to rule through letters, messengers, and trusted advisors. He worked tirelessly to prevent war, maintain border defenses, and manage the increasingly tense relations between the Templars and Hospitallers. This was Baldwin's twilight, and yet, in his final years, he preserved what little peace the kingdom had left. Chapter 9. Death and Collapse. In 1185, Baldwin IV died at age 24. He had named his young nephew as heir, but Baldwin V died less than a year later, and power fell into the hands of Guy of Lusignan. In 1187, Guy led the Crusader army into the disastrous Battle of Hattin. Saladin won a decisive victory, and soon after Jerusalem fell. The Kingdom of Jerusalem, as a functioning state, effectively ceased to exist. In less than 2 years after Baldwin's death, the kingdom collapsed. Chapter 10. Legacy and Modern Portrayal. For a long time, Baldwin IV was a footnote in Crusade history, but recent historians and popular media have started to re-examine his role. He wasn't a great conqueror, nor a flawless politician, but he was rational, determined, and wise beyond his years. In the 2005 film Kingdom of Heaven, Baldwin is portrayed as a tragic but noble figure wearing a silver mask. Though dramatized, this image reflects the dignity and resolve with which he ruled. He traded a short life for a brief peace, and in the final days of the kingdom, he was its clearest voice. Closing. History is not myth. It's a struggle between choice and reality. Baldwin IV's life had no miracles and no triumphant ending. He ruled with pain, under threat, and without illusions. History is not made of myths. It is made of choices, some futile, some brave, and the harsh weight of reality. Though his choices could not stop the collapse, Baldwin IV's mind and spirit left a mark. He was a last light in a kingdom fading into darkness.